I just got the chance to test the new 2025 Ducati Panigale V4. The biggest thing that people don't talk about the bike is how light it is and how light it feels. The weight is pretty similar to the older gen and the new gen. However, I think they've done some engineering to like bring the unsprung mass quite low. So like you really feel it, even when you just like swing a leg over and just move it around, you can feel that so light and nimble. And what that means is like it's so much easier to turn. Usually on my like at higher speeds, especially through the chicanes, you need to put a lot of bar pressure, like push and pull to get the bike, turn. So, but in this one, when I tested like at speeds about like 180 and 200 plus, it's just so much easier to like tip in and just lead the bike compared to the S1K. And that's a very light bike, yeah. I think with the full exhaust and the carbon wheels, this bike is about 185 kilos. I think the stock V4 is slightly higher than that. But from Ducati's engineers, it just feels so much more lighter and so much nimble through the corners, and it's just crazy how they've done that. And not a lot of people talk about that. That's the major reason why I feel like that's going to be a much better track bike than the S1K. So what that lighter feel of the bike means to any rider is they're going to be like so much more comfortable with like hanging off more and just trying to be more faster. Even for a beginner rider, they're just going to have so much more confidence. Just making like a U-turn or something, that this like current generation of V4 is going to be that much lighter and easier to ride. Such a light bike and so fast as well. And that's why you see a lot of Moto2 riders who are planning to jump into MotoGP just buy the V4 2025 and practice, because it's that much more lighter and similar in the way that it delivers power to a MotoGP bike. So that says a lot about the bike. So when it comes to power delivery, this has I think 1 or half a horsepower extra. But I think the major difference is in the way it delivers the power. The older V4, it has like a really great mid-range punch. So when you're in cornering on the track, you're really always on the mid-range. So like that's where it shines. However, the new one, it has like a wide range of power band where you still have that mid-range torque that the Ducati is known for, and also the top end that like the S1K is really good at. So it's kind of like a blend of Ducati character, also with like the punch of the S1K at the top end. So it's really impressive how they've done it without the shift cams in the BMW or any of that crazy technology, with just tune and how the bike is done. However, I have a small gripe with it. Like when you're riding really hard at the higher RPMs, the V4 has like this tendency to like taper out the power after 13,000 RPM all the way to 14.5. It's just, it has a very soft limiter. It just linearly cuts power till 14.5. That happens only in certain gears, not in all gears. So like, it's kind of unpredictable and kills the fun if you really like, revving it out on an airstrip or a private road. That's kind of a bummer, but it's an easy fix with like a Brent tune or something, which most of the guys who get these bikes are gonna do anyway. So what ends up happening is if you're on a stock tune, this is why I did is like you just start to shift early at 13k RPM, because you know that sometimes it's going to cut power, so you're just going to end up shifting it early at 13. But when you look down at the dash, it's still got like that 14.5 limiter, and you're just shifting early, and it doesn't feel nice. So when I first test drove the S1K on the Booth International Circuit when it was launched, it felt like a 600cc in the way that the unsprung mass acted with the carbon wheels and everything. And that was something crazy, and it just blew my mind when I first did that. And when I got into the V4, it felt like a 300cc bike. The way the weight moves around in the bike and how easier it is to turn and lean into the corner. So that was quite surprising. On the same note, the Ducati's exhaust also kind of sounds like a 300cc bike. And the low revs, 5,000 RPM, like I think it has like a cylinder deactivation or something in city speeds and lower RPMs, and the valves open up completely, and I think the 4-cylinder mode comes in only at 6k. Not really sure on this, but I think it's mostly the exhaust flaps. So when that opens up, the exhaust is beautiful. But when you just start up, it just sounds like a Ninja 300 or something. It's kind of annoying, like you're paying so much and you want to get a good exhaust. That's why I got my bike like fitted with a full car punch exhaust, so that I don't have to deal with that big cat reducing all the noise and just making it sound like a not like a leader bike and like a smaller bike. So that's something of which is like a big letdown on this bike. So whoever's gonna buy this bike really have to have that budget of like some 7 lakhs, or like if you're in the US it's $6,000 or something, $7,000 on an exhaust, which is definitely needed to make the bike feel a little bit nicer at idle and lower speeds. Yeah. So we've got a new high pure Brembo calipers, which I have to say is really confidence inspiring. So when I talked about the acceleration, I said how fast it is and how much faster it is than the S1K. So basically on the S1K I did like a 100 to 200 run in 3.9, and on this bike I think it's about 3.5, 3.6. So that's crazy fast, and the reason why I do that is also because of the brakes. The new high pure calipers give you so much confidence, so that wherever you're, let's say you're braking at 100, you would try 75 and the bike stops. And then you go and try 50 and it still stops. So it's crazy on a bike, on a road bike, which is capable of that kind of a racing bike level performance on the track. And even on road, like wherever I did like about 240 on my S1K on that private road stretch, on this bike I was at like 265, 270 all the time. That's mostly due to the braking confidence that you have. At those speeds, you know that you're going to slow down for that corner. So that's like a massive upgrade from the already good Stylema brakes that came in the older V4. That's really solid. I think the S1K brakes would last an entire track day. I think this brakes would go even like maybe 2-3 track days even. That's what it feels like from the little amount of time that I drove with this, and it's just going to give you so much more confidence, even for a new rider, to just keep pushing the braking markers. And with this electronics, the rear is so stable too. Like you can just go as hard as you want after that initial squeeze on the brakes, and it's just so beautifully done. So the quick shifter's got an update, which I don't think it needed, but it did. And I think right now it's so much smoother and a little bit faster too, and it's not very at low speeds, even in city speeds, like at from second to first. And even if you like downshift aggressively, especially in the first and second gears, where even on my S1K, which has the industry standard quick shifter, stock quick shifter, that still gets into false neutral here and there. But I think the Ducati's new quick shifter, it's going to be a little bit more reliable from what I've seen, even on the track and under hard downshift. It's very smooth, and in higher RPMs, it's just so quick, and you hear that loud exhaust when you just do that clutchless upshift. It's perfect. If not, it's slightly better than S1K. I hate to say this, but it's what it is. They've done a really good job on the quick shifter on this one. So the electronics on this bike is really good. Now you have the mode selector right on top here, right next to the hazard lights, which is so much easier. I mean, pretty similar to what we have in the S1K. I mean, usually you have to go into the menu to do all that. Now it's just here, which is a welcome upgrade for that. It just makes the switch so much easier. And what I like about the Ducati system is, like, when you're on the fly, you can individually change all the assists, like the wheel control, the ABS, whatever. So what I did was I just got the rear ABS completely off, like when I was on the private road, to like do those like lock up skids and drifts and whatever. And then like immediately after that, like 5 minutes later, I got on the public road and I had to like put it back on to like 5 so that the ABS is in its most aggressive setting without turning it off completely. And that just makes it so much more easier. No matter what mode you're in, race A, race B, street, whatever, you can always play with that. So that's really good. And the major update that you see is like from the older gen, which was like very raw, and like even with all the assists on, like you just do an aggressive downshift, even at lower speeds, the tail's gonna come out and you gotta be ready to catch it, and you shouldn't be startled by that and drop the brakes or whatever. However, in the new one, no matter how aggressive you do the downshifts or whatever, even with the systems like completely off sometimes, it still sticks. I think that has to go with the double-sided swing arm, which just gives that stability in the rear and just lets you push harder and just downshift aggressively, brake so hard, and the bike just stays in a straight line, which some people might hate. They like the drama, that's why they get the Ducati. But the newer gen is just doesn't want to do the drama. It just wants speed and lap times. I love that. It was quite scary. I mean, I wouldn't be pushing the V4 as much as my S1K if it was the older gen. However, the newer gen, I would probably hang off a little bit more, carry a little bit more speed, brake a little bit later. So that's all due to the advanced electronics. It's as good as the S1K, if not just on par with it. That's just so crazy on this bike. So the wheel control is amazing, and I think a lot of things that I talk about in this bike is going to come towards its light handling characteristics and the power. So like wheelies are crazy. I'm not a wheelie expert. Even for me, like at wheelie at level 1 and Ducati's electronics, you can just go so high, and then you can just have those cross wheelie moments, which I've never done in any other bike, but I got to do that on this, and that's all thanks to the electronics, and it's not my skill, it's just the bike doing it for me. And I can't imagine like what a pro can do at all these wheelies and stuff with this bike. They're just gonna like have so much more fun and so much more safely too to use the electronics if they choose to use that. And when it comes to heat management, this bike is definitely better. I would say it's 30% lesser compared to the older gen, just kind of like threw the heat from the tank onto you, like through your inner thighs. And sometimes I found my thighs to be like burned when I'm driving in traffic, like an hour long traffic or something. The new bike, it doesn't burn me. You feel the presence of the heat only when the bike is stopped in traffic and you just hold in the bike with your legs, and you know, when your skin is like in contact with it. That's when you like really feel it. Obviously, if you're wearing gear, it's much lighter, and if you're just on regular clothes, it's a little harder. You would think if you ride the Ducati hard and fast, the heat won't be as much like the S1K. If you're just at higher speed, you legit don't feel any heat on that. However, on this one, you still, there's no getting around it. It's a Ducati, it's gonna heat up. You still feel it. Low speeds, high speeds, you feel it. But it's a little better, not as bad as the older gen. 30% less is what I can tell from what I've experienced in it. This older gen, I would probably never take it to a dinner or a cafe to meet a friend in traffic for an hour or two, but the newer gen I can. And I think the bike can take it to, the clutch is a little gentle, and the low speed is a little dialed in for the Ducati. It's not going to turn off on you when you're in the city and traffic and using too much clutch, like the older gen did. It's still going to be jerky, it's a Ducati, like it's a race bike, that's what it's made for, to be on the racetrack. So it's not going to feel very easy like the S1K does. It's got that shift cam and it's so easy to drive even on the city and on the track. However, Ducati, they just want to be like very streamlined, race focused. And they still have a little bit of weird jerky feeling in low speeds. So you got to really work the clutch to let it go, and it might induce a lot more of clutch work. But yeah, like Ducati being Ducati, they don't have a fuel gauge. They just want you to bring the bike to the track, do laps, and when the fuel light comes in, come back in, put some gas and go again. That's what this bike is designed for. But I can see myself taking this to service. Usually you don't take these bikes to service, you just truck it. So this, I can see myself taking it to service, to cafes or dinners and stuff. I think it's a little bit more livable than the older gen. So could you daily this bike? I think you can. Ideally, the bike and you will enjoy the most if you really track this bike. The newer seat is, you know, quite flat. It's not like angled like the older gen. This you can see like it's got an angle, and when you get on the bike, you can literally see that it's just like legit race position. Like my legs are just here on the tank gripping it, and there's no space for me to move around, which I like from the older gen. It's just more track focused. It's a little longer. You can see like the S1K seat, it's not raked enough. So it's going to be a lot more flatter and a little bit longer, which is going to be comfortable on the street, so you can definitely daily it. I don't like that. The reason why I love Ducati is it's so track focused, which is what I love, and that's how this seat used to be. I think you can get like a Ducati race seat, which might still be like that. I haven't really seen that yet. But yeah, that's something they've changed as well, which makes a big difference for people who want to daily the V4. Okay, so let's talk about the design of the V4. I personally love it. When the new V4 came out, I just love the front end. It kind of looks like the S1K and made the older V4 look a little dated. However, I see people crying about the double-sided swing arm. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, if you're gonna just park it in a cafe and meet your friends, you want to keep looking at your bike, yeah. What I would say is, like, if you have the older gen, just park it facing the rear so that you can look at the swing arm. If you have the newer gen, just park it like straight so that you can look at the front headlights and the new design and enjoy it that way. New headlights are so much more brighter than the older gen, so if you're into night rides and stuff, that's gonna be really good for you. The arrow bubble that you sit on the bike and just when you're tucked in, the arrow is so good. You legit don't feel any wind blast at all. Even for a tall person like me. And yeah, you can really tell that the arrow has been worked on so much that when you're in the tucked in position and even under braking, you don't get that much of a wind blast. And the moment you just get out of the bubble and try to put your hand out, you see how much more wind drag is there. So it's really noticeable, and I think that will help with a lot of stability under hard braking and heavy acceleration and wheelies as well. So what I really like about this bike is how track focused it is with the new high pure calipers, which just has so much more stopping power than the older style on us. It's surprising how much braking pressure you can do on the front wheel, and the bike just stops. And the ergonomics of it, the design, and all the sacrifices they've made in terms of the swing arm just made it such a great track bike. It's crazy what Ducati have created with such a great electronics package, which makes the bike a lot more safer without losing all of its character. It still has that Ducati behavior of that raw power and just that punchy torque, and the exhaust with that growl and all of that. It's still a Ducati, there's no two ways about it. This is gonna make the Ducati like a favorite track bike for a lot of people out there. Usually we see a lot of S1Ks on the track, and this time with the much lighter bike, even for a beginner, this is going to be so much more rewarding to do a track day with. So I think Ducatis are going to be around in tracks a lot. So should you get the V4 or the V4S? Not really sure, because the bike definitely needs an exhaust. I think that's a top priority over spending that extra $7,000 on the Oldens and getting the V4S. I'm sure a lot of people who want to get the Ducati, they can afford the V4S, but if you're like a beginner or like an intermediate track day person, I think you should just get the V4 and the exhaust and just complete the bike. The V4 Showa suspension was pretty good. I rode it in traffic and really bad roads and really butter smooth roads. It was perfect. I think it's just Ducati being Ducati, charging a lot more for all of this. It's crazy what Ducati has done, and it really feels like it's the better bike at the moment, despite the 2025 S1K. So if Ducati can do this much and make the bike feel so much lighter, I can't wait to see what like a complete gen upgrade for like the S1K is gonna look like. If they can beat this, that's just gonna be crazy, because Ducati is just taken such a huge leap forward. It's really quite mind-boggling to see how people are gonna catch up to this. So I think this is gonna be the ultimate dream bike for anyone who's looking to buy a Ducati in 25 or any other super bike. I think this just beats it all.